All right, hello everyone, and welcome to another Workshop Wednesday. My name is Dre Devots, a systems engineer here at Verify, and I'll be your host for today's workshop. Today we're joined by my good friend Matt Sykes, another SEO over here at Verify, and he's going to talk to you a little bit today about a new feature coming out in EFT 13.0, and that's going to be UCCX Audible Alerts. Matt, how you doing today, buddy?
Good, Dre. How are you, my man?
Doing fantastic. Thank you for asking. All right, we're going to start off with a quick overview of our company and what we do. Next, Matt is going to lead us into a live demo to show us the UCCX Audible Alerts. We'll pause for Q&A and get some of your questions answered. During the demo, if you have any questions, please make sure to ask them in the Q&A panel in the bottom right of the screen. After Q&A, we will reward one lucky attendee a $50 Amazon gift card. So hang around to see if you won. Verify is the preferred analytics and management solution for Cisco collaboration. We provide industry-leading CDR, UCCX, and Cube Call analytics, customizable dashboards, widgets, remote phone control, and change management. But today, we're going to be focusing on the new feature in 13, UCCX Audible Alerts. If you have any other questions on any other features, please feel free to chat me up in the Q&A panel in the bottom right. One more thing before we kick things off. For those of you looking for a more hands-off Verify experience, we do offer a managed consulting service. This is a service that provides a dedicated Verify SE to do all the heavy lifting, give you and your users a completely hands-off experience. Think of us as an extension of your organization. For those who have seen this slide before, we have removed Ninja from the name, but kept the same great service. It provides updates, one-on-one training, report, dashboard building, or anything you need. Your dedicated Verify Systems engineer has you covered. The only thing you have to do is give us a call or send an email. If you want any additional information on our ECS service, please feel free to reach out to your account manager. We'd be happy to see if ECS is right for you. All right, with all that said, I'm going to kick it over to Matt to lead us into the wild to show us about the UCCX Audible Alerts feature. It's going to be available on EFT 13.0. I know a lot of people have been waiting for this one, so take it away, Matt.
All right, hello everyone. Matt Sykes here. Okay, so for today's webinar, as Dr. Dre just mentioned, we're going to cover the new Audible Threshold Alert capability for our UCCX CSQ widgets coming in Verify 13.0. Now, I do want to say that we have had silent thresholds in these widgets for quite some time, or silent monitoring as some have called it, and certainly looking at this dashboard slash wallboard right here, we can see three of them right now in these top three widgets. I've got them centered around abandonment for the most part, but what they are the visual cues. So currently these three widgets, the CSQ statistics details, the CSQ summary, as well as the real-time CSQ activity widgets, these three widgets already support thresholds. So in this lab version that I'm in right now is our current GA on this lab, this 12.4.2. So these have the silent threshold monitors. So some of you actually may be asking yourselves, what are these thresholds you speak of and how do we use them? Well, I am so glad you asked that. The existing thresholds are configured around a time window, statistics, and expressions. The expressions are used to determine what the actual thresholds are for the selected statistics. So we'll go ahead and just take a quick little look at that right now as the thresholds sit currently in our GA. So within these three CSQ style widgets, on the left shaded blue pane, you will see that third icon is a thresholds option. So in this widget here, I do have one built for just the silent monitoring or the visual cue thresholds. So we can see here I've selected, an abandoned percent to trigger and illuminate red if it breaches 10 or greater, as far as an abandoned percentage. Where do we get that statistic? Well, actually in these widgets, certainly it's from viewable data that has already been selected within the widget. So seeing these six that I have here, these will be six I can certainly utilize within the threshold drop-down or pick list. And sitting in this pick list, there they are there. So I can have more than one, I can have more than one expression on the same statistic type. So there's certainly a lot of options to play with there. So this is certainly the thresholding that is capable in the current Verify GA as it sits right now, whether that's based off of counts, times, or percentages. Certainly you can see it is illuminated here, as well as the abandoned count here. Doesn't always have to be for something negative as well. I mean, it could be something positive as well. So in this real-time CSQ activity, which I have here, I am illuminating these agent counts when they're 5 or greater are logged into the CSQ. So there are some mediums in between as well. There's a blue color and there's an orange color, which we'll cover in a little bit. But these thresholds work well to give users, the visual cue that something concerning is going on within their call center. However, a visual cue requires someone to be looking at the widget in order to notice. Definitely not the most ideal. While many clients may have the dashboard up on a screen or running in their browser, the call center agents and managers / supervisors are not always actively looking at this or at the boards themselves. So this means that important threshold breaches can be missed fairly easily. Okay, so that takes us to Verify 13.0, which we've obviously been shouting from the mountaintops of the new features coming in this feature-rich package due out in a couple of weeks. So in this lab, I'm running 13.0 here. I do have the capability of CCX threshold audible alerts. If we look in the upper right-hand corner of this one widget that I'm utilizing right now, we do see an audio image here. It can be muted. We'll get into that as well. But by adding, configurable alerts to the thresholds, clients do not need to have people actively looking at the boards for the visual cues or colored illuminations within a widget. Instead, if a threshold is breached, the dashboard on another browser or displaying on a big TV monitor will play an audio chirp, which can certainly grab hold of a user or manager's attention. Kind of like our text broadcast feature when phone devices themselves need to be chirped with text messages. All right, this will make the thresholds much more valuable because audible cues require less active attention on the dashboard, allowing the users to focus more on their other tasks and not worry so much about missing a visual threshold on a Verify widget. Okay, so let's get after it here. So within the 13.0 and these 3 styles of CSQ summary widgets here, we're just going to go right into the configurations here. So I'm going to edit this in the upper right hand corner, and we'll go ahead and actually take a look at the existing thresholds that I already have built on these CSQ style widgets. So nothing very different from a configuration perspective. Just once again, whatever is picked for viewable data will be available to me in the pick list within thresholds. So I'm just going to jump over to thresholds, and I already have a couple built here. One on the RNA or ring no answer percentage. I have a couple of them actually. One to go orange in between certain values, one to go red, and actual to play audio. So here's the new option, is the playing of audio. And also, once enabled, has the option for a repeat audio interval as well. So we also have testing capabilities to start the test, what it's going to sound like. Certainly once you turn these on initially, there will be no audio file selected, nor will there be any volume to it. So you'll definitely need to slide the volume lever over and specify which one out of the 9, pre-canned alert audio files that we can play for you. So I'll cover those real briefly right now, and I do apologize. I'm not going to try and shell shock anybody with the sound, but let's run through these real briefly. So here are our 9 audible options, and then we can talk about how to use them. So we can easily use the test that's in here. So here's test 1 on critical sound 1. All right, and then we can make that louder if you didn't hear that. Certainly that's going to grab somebody's attention. So even if you're across the room or you're in an office or you're in a meeting, if you hear that blaring off of a television screen or a secondary monitor, that's going to grab someone's attention for sure. Let me just pull this volume down a little bit, and let's go through the rest. Here's critical 2. All right, critical 3. I am certain we'll probably have additional sounds later down the road. Informational chirp. Here's informational 2 chirp. Not bad. Informational 3. Warnings 1 through 3. Here's 1. There's warning 1. Okay, warning 2. There it is. And warning 3. Okay, so those are the 9 that we have to play with. Certainly you need to turn on the play audio toggle to be able to utilize that. But also you can turn on the repeat audio if you feel that is necessary. So within this option here, we'll have pick lists again. So do we want to repeat? How often do we want to repeat? Do we want to just repeat continuously? I'll definitely maybe recommend against that potentially, unless we definitely want this alert to be a showstopper within the environment to have all eyes on this immediately. Certainly it's there, but that can be maybe a little repetitive. I'm going to save everyone's ears on using that, but maybe we'll use the warning 3 on a repeat for maybe a 2-second delay. So there's a couple second delays, even fractions of a second delays, or even out to 30 seconds. But now we do need to be a little cognizant, I believe, with the these delays on the repeat audio, just because of cognizant of the refresh interval built into the widget within the configuration. Now, by default, these widgets are going to be set for 15 minutes, unless it's the real-time one. But we certainly can pull those all the way down to 30 seconds if we need to. In other words, what I'm really saying is if we have this set down to 30 seconds, you may not necessarily want to have your audio chirp repeat running every 5 seconds, just because it's going to be a little too much, I think, maybe for the intended use of it, or usage within a production environment. Okay, so we certainly have those, and then very easy to go ahead and and build them out. So just with the colored illumination or visual cues, now we have the the pleasure of audio that we can attach to this. So no one, once again, has to be staring at those boards. So let me just take a look. Ring no answer. Let me just turn that one off. I want to use, let's use this one, abandoned count, one of my favorites. I know each one of those CSQs has plenty of abandonment in the background. So let's just go ahead and pick on something. I will play the critical 1 alert, maybe at, I don't know, close to 50% or so. And I will turn off the repeat. I don't necessarily think I need the repeat. However, the widgets will, if there is, I guess, a threshold breach, they will re-trigger after the widget refreshes, whether that's 30 seconds, whether that's 15 minutes, or if it's even the 5-second real-time CSQ widget that we'll take a look at in a moment. So once again, I can always play that. So now let's go ahead and save this. And now, since I know this is centered on my abandoned count, actually, let me put a repeat on there. Why is it doing that? Well, we have the visual there. Give me 1 second. I'll do it on the ring no answer count. And this is percentage. Let me go and create a new threshold. It should be towards the bottom. Excuse me. I will, from my pick list, select the RNA percent. No, not percentage. I want count. And since I saw there was onesie twosies, I'll just go ahead and blanket all CSQs. Certainly, I can be specific to which CSQ I want to specify this expression for. But I'm just going to blanket all of them for this demonstration, and then add the expression. We'll go red greater than, I'll say, 0. And let's go ahead and throw an audio playback on here. Let's go with critical, set it to 50% or so. That's what it should sound like. Let's go ahead and save that. Now the RNA column should go red. And there's actually the chirp off of the refresh and its delayed repeat. So in the upper right hand corner, I think I have this refreshing every 30 seconds, or I can manually refresh it. But in the upper right hand corner, this little sound icon will distinguish whether or not there is an audible threshold defined on this widget. Also, if it is playing and potentially maybe just too obnoxious, for instance, it can be muted. So a user could click on that mute option there and go ahead and quiet that alert off of the board until the configuration is maybe modified if it was set up in error. Okay, so for instance, I don't want to wait for the refresh. I can manually refresh this here, and it will, as you can see, it's muted now. And then once the content loads and it trips the trigger on the RNA audible threshold, it will trigger that sound. Now within this widget here itself, I'm set for 15 minutes. Yeah, once again, I could bring this down to a much shorter refresh interval if I needed to. Same rules are going to apply for counts, for times, for percentages as well. So I have a visual threshold on this CSQ widget here, refreshing every 15 minutes. Don't need to worry about that threshold. So within this, I'm using abandoned percent. Here we go. So I am using a 10% threshold. So we can certainly use counts, percentages, average times if we want to utilize maybe like this one, abandoned average ring time if we're maybe chasing down that metric, or we're very concerned about the abandonment rate within a CSQ or the environment overall CSQ. Certainly we can use that. So all three of those options are definitely there at our disposal. So once again, I'm going to stick with red, but once again, we have other colors as well. Everything doesn't have to be viewed so negatively, I suppose. Orange could maybe serve as warning kind of options. Green, once again, like I showcased earlier, could be a positive aspect of the queue. You have your queue time is good, the average queue time, you have enough agents that are logged in, or the abandonment rate is down. Certainly dealer's choice to build out these expressions as you see fit. But now, coming in 13.0, we will have the luxury, once again, of playing audio alerts with these thresholds. So in here, once again, this is triggering, so my abandon percentage is red in the background on that widget, but let's go ahead and play some audio for it. But let's not go with the critical 1. Let's maybe go with the critical 2. And I'll keep the repeat on there. Let's go ahead and test what that audible will sound like with its repeat after 1 second. And as you'll see, even while I'm testing this audible alert, it's locked everything until it's done with that test. So you'll see that once I click on Start Audio Test, it's going to say Stop Audio Test. So I could stop it if I wanted to, or I can allow it to finish. So I'll just click Start, and if I want to stop it and not wait for the repeat, certainly to test it out, you can certainly do so. But now once I had this turned on, I know that this abandon percent for these two CSQs is breaking 10%. So once I click Save here, it should trigger this critical 2 alert with its repeat in a matter of seconds here for us. There we go. And if for some reason someone had configured this with a continuous repetitive chirping of an audible tone, once again we have the icon here to go ahead and mute that if we needed to. Okay. Now the real-time CSQ1, same rules apply. I mean, for these audible thresholds, same rules apply to all 3 of them. This one is just a little more sensitive, in my opinion, just because this widget is more real-time than the others above it, because this table is actually being written to, I want to say, every 5 seconds within Contact Center. So thusly in Verify, we've kind of mirrored that to refresh, or bring it down to the lowest interval refresh of 5 seconds. So if there is an audible alert on here, not to say that someone could get themselves into trouble, but it could be a little cumbersome with the repeat amount of chirps that you're hearing on these audible alerts. Now, what do I mean by that necessarily? Well, let's take a look. So without even turning on the repeat audio, I'll use critical 3 this time. We'll run that. What does that sound like? That sounds like that. Okay, so if I go ahead and save this, but once again, this widget is refreshing every 5 seconds. So, and this is without the repeat. So there it went right there to let me know about 2 queues that have breached that threshold. And there we go, another 5-second refresh. You'll hear it playing again. And even while it's refreshing, you'll see it mute itself before loading. So you'll see it again another 5 seconds. You'll see that icon getting muted. Bingo. And then it plays the chirps for those 2 CSQs that have breached their threshold. Okay, so definitely want to be cognizant of the mute option. Obviously, those refresh. Let me turn this off. But once again, that's not as bad as it could be. That thing could be just chirping continuously with repeat intervals and all that. Let me just save that. Maybe one more in queue. Nope. Okay, good. All right, but yeah, to be cognizant of the the mute option, the refresh timers, and the different types of statistics that we can threshold off of, counts, times, and percentages, as we just kind of dictated. So whether, as I mentioned, whether that's the if we're looking at the abandoned, here it is, the abandoned average ring time, or sometimes like that, even the percentages. Once again, we can threshold around them, whether it's in positive light, whether it's negative or something to be looked at that's critical, or from a warning or informational aspect. All right. Let's see here. There's a couple of mentionables I do want to make a good case of. So multiple alerts for a single widget. So certainly I have multiple alerts in this one. Not multiple audios, but in the case of having multiple audible alerts on one single widget, it is possible certainly to have that functionality, that there are alerts that are triggered to configure or get triggered at the same time. In this case, Verify will queue up tones to be played from most severe to least severe. Depending on the widget configuration, this could result in one of the most severe alerts being played. If it's to play continuously on that widget before it even finishes playing. So we are going to kind of queue these tones based off of thresholds and severity levels. So critical 1 through 3, those are the most severe, followed by warning and then the informationals. So definitely the more critical alerts within the tone queue, quote unquote, will trump informationals, for instance. Okay. multiple alerts on a dashboard like I have here. So I have two widgets. I have multiple alerts in them. So I mean, this situation requires a tad bit more consideration than just a single widget on a single board. Obviously, this is because the widgets return with their values asynchronously. Therefore, it is possible that an audible alert is already being played by the time a new widget loads and another audible trigger alert is triggered. I mean, once again, there is a built-in audible alert queue for this feature, but obviously, of course, not visible in the UI. Okay. I do believe we have kind of covered the muting of the widget. But if a widget, is configured to have audible alerts, Verify will display an icon next to the drop-down menu in the upper right, or the three dots of each widget, and that icon is interactive, so that you can go ahead and mute that tone that's being played per that that breached threshold alert. Okay. Also, now, definitely this is all great new logic here, but also this does trickle down to our our permalink dashboards. Uh-oh. What happened there? I think something was certainly queued up. Let me just turn off my audibles right now. But yeah, as I was mentioning, yes, the permalinks. So these these audio alerts, or audible alerts, excuse me, will certainly trickle down to the permalink boards as well. Same capacity here. You'll see the icon up there. I think I just need to refresh this guy so that it takes in count my RNA count thresholding. It's muted. Once it loads, I do believe it should trigger. There they go. Okay, so the logic also trickles down to the permalink boards, but great feature that we have now, so that no one needs to physically sit there and stare at dashboards. So I definitely think that that's going to be a big key for the customer base to utilize these thresholdings now. Also, I do want to make mention though, with the permalinks, I ran into this myself even for this presentation. I did have to tweak some browser settings. So I mean, the permalinks will work. They will obviously run as designed and trigger their audible threshold alerts as well. But you probably need to maybe edit your browser settings. Now, myself, I know that I had to go into Chrome here, go into the browser settings, went into security and privacy, and had to tweak the site settings here, specifically for my lab, to allow the autoplay of sound. So I believe the autoplay was initially set for automatic default, so I wasn't even able to hear those tones off a permalink board without having to come into these browser settings and allowing it manually. So that certainly can be done to make an audible alert able to be heard over a large television monitor, or a large secondary monitor that a supervisor may be having within an environment. So definitely be mindful of that. But certainly if there's any questions or concerns about that, you can certainly feel free to contact support@verify.com, and we'd be more than willing to assist you with any of those troubleshooting or how-tos. Mr. Dre, I think I'm a little light on content, my man, with this fantastic new feature. Do you have any questions for me today?
I do. We got a couple questions here. One coming from Laura.
Fire away.
So she says if you have two thresholds in one widget, and the audio is either going to be muted or not for both, correct? And is there a way to indicate which one is muted and unmuted?
Oh, that was a great question, Laura.
Right?
The mute option will mute the current threshold that's been breached. So the current alert that's, I guess, in the quote unquote, I know you can't see my fingers, in the quote unquote tone queue, let's say, it will mute that current one. But definitely, if there are multiples that are happening, you're not necessarily going to know which one you're muting. But definitely, I would think the visual illumination still of the visual cues that we already had supported would also help kind of benefit that alert for you. But certainly, editing it real briefly, you could see what the configuration threshold is tripping on. But I would definitely adhere to using the visual cues on what's actually being triggered. But great question.
But from just the standard widget like you're looking at here, it's just either mute the whole all the thresholds or
the current threshold. It will mute the current threshold that's
current. Gotcha.
If there is but no, great question though. If there is a second one that say triggered maybe a second or two later after I muted initially, it will turn itself back on. But I can mute that one then as well. So
gotcha.
Yeah, so it's individualized there. But once again, once that widget is refreshed, it is going to if those if those values are breached, it will trigger new alerts per the refresh. So that's why I did mention be cognizant of your widget threshold, your widget refresh intervals.
Awesome. All right, we got another question for Dan. I believe you
Sure.
answered this one. He was asking what happens if multiple audio thresholds are tripped. And I believe you said they go by critical to informational, like a
Correct.
little.
Correct. Yeah,
Yep.
there is a severity scale that we have for these tones and these alert thresholds that it will follow in tow, but it's mainly based off of the option of the audio that we want to play. So those will be specified, obviously, as I had made mention earlier, of what style it is. Is it critical? Is it informational? Is it warning? Critical is going to trump everything else, and warning will trump informational, but that's how it's going to flow down for now.
Um, a good friend Simi also asked, these are some anxiety-inducing sounds. I don't
They
think
can be, yes, ma'am.
my frontline agents would be okay with this. Is there a more neutral option so they can hear the alert but not panic? And I think there was one that I told you earlier about that I thought sounded nice that wasn't too panicky.
There's definitely ones that are a little more softer on the ears, Dre, for sure. But also, I would think that the volume level obviously could probably help aid in some of that anxiety as well. I think you liked Warning 3, you said earlier.
Yeah, it was.
So maybe something as brief and as simplistic as that. We don't have any uploadable options just yet, but I have a feeling that we're going to be expanding this down the line. But these are the 9 as we are going to roll out Verify 13.0 EFT with for now.
Yep. Simi said, awesome. We had another question which you just answered about roadmap, adding your own sounds and select what type of severity it would be. So,
Yes,
yeah.
like I said, I don't have that roadmap in front of me at the moment, nor a timeline. But definitely, I can only see this being expanded. Yes, and I could probably almost even envision potential user uploads of their own kind of wave files for chirps and sounds that they may want to hear. But I don't have a time frame for that just yet. But but I will make one quick mention back to Simi's kind of inquiry there about anxiety that some of these alerts and chirps could perform. I do think it may be beneficial for kind of a mute all button on our dashboards for any content or any of these thresholds that may be misconfigured. For instance, maybe somebody has a permalink that someone threw at them and had bookmarked, but updated the thresholds with the audio stuff now, but misconfigured it, left for the weekend, and now this board is being broadcast in a large environment where it's just ringing continuously. Well, certainly you can mute that television or turn off the browser sound if you need to, but I have requested that we look at maybe even throwing in a kind of a mute all button as a just in case something is misconfigured, so to alleviate that anxiety level potential.
Awesome.
Anything else, sir?
Yeah, one more question just in regards to 13,
Fire away.
when it's being released and available.
Good question. I want to say it should be out in a couple of weeks. I think it was mid-April, but I have been out for a couple of weeks, so I don't have a hard date on that. Certainly, we can find that out and get back to you. But if you're interested in the Verify 13.0 EFT, I mean, it is available today. Obviously, it's not GA or anything, but certainly you can either contact your account manager. You can visit planet.verify.com, our user forum, where you can kind of drill in and join to the Verify 13.0 EFT sign up, and we can go ahead and get that beta loaded up in your system today if needed. Or let me hop back to my website, or I think it's a ribbon banner at the very top introducing the new Verify 13.0 EFT program, Request Access. You can click on that. It will redirect you over to the Planet, to the user community, for you to go ahead and register and request that. So please take advantage of that in some capacity, or if you want to wait till it's GA, it is only a couple of weeks away.
Awesome.
Anything else, sir?
That looks like that's all the questions for today. A lot of good questions out there.
Oh,
A lot of questions. I knew that was going to come, right? With these,
I knew
with the
I knew there was going to be
alerts.
quite a few. Not a problem. Okay, so I'll stop sharing, Dre, and let you take a
All
few.
right. Once again, awesome job, Matt, as always. And speaking of Planet Verify, just wanted to remind you about Planet Verify, our new online community where you can connect with your peers and expand your knowledge of all things Verify. Plus, you may end up with some new drink recipes from the cantina. It is also a place where you could sign up to be a part of the upcoming EFT. All right, let's get on to what everybody's been waiting for, and that's going to be the $50 Amazon gift card. And this week's winner is Nathan Bundy. Congratulations. Your account manager will be reaching out to you shortly. Once again, guys, thank you so much for joining today. Don't forget, join us next week where Brian McKay and Mike Stratton are going to go over most common UCCX detail columns utilized and what they represent. Always a good learning experience with those two.
Definitely.
Well, with that, thanks, Matt, and everybody have a great rest of your week.
Thank you all. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.